Hi, third graders, it's Miss Rayborn here. I'm gathering together my supplies for a practice drawing about how to draw a face in proportion. If you haven't already watched the video on the previous slide about self-portraits and the proportion of a face, please do that first. So I gathered together my sketchbook. If you don't happen to have a sketchbook at home, of course, you could use just any piece of paper. It would be helpful if it does not have lines. So a piece of like copy or printer paper would work great. You'll need a pencil and an eraser. I have a ruler here. A ruler is going to be super helpful to you. If for some reason you don't have a ruler at home, you could use instead a book because it has a solid edge. You won't be able to measure, which is going to be a big part of what we're doing today. So hopefully you will have a ruler, but if you don't, you absolutely could use instead the edge of a book, okay? So I'm gonna open up my sketchbook and I'm gonna find myself a clean page and I'm gonna make sure that I turn it to the side. So instead of being wide like this and skinny, I'm gonna go like this so that I have the most of my paper. I have as much opportunity for making my face as big as possible. So we talked about the shape of a face just a little bit in the video. When I was a little girl, my art teacher taught me to never try to draw it all in one thing because chances are I wasn't gonna get it connected. It'd be a little sideways and kind of floppy and it wouldn't look quite right. So we talked about the shape of a head to start with, and we said the shape of a head is sort of egg-shaped, right? So I'm starting up near the top, and this is gonna be the top of my head. Not my forehead, but the top of my head, which we talked about in our first video. Then I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna draw in a place for where my chin is going to be. So doing this slowly is gonna help me keep it symmetrical. So I'm gonna start on this side and I'm just gonna start to connect downwards, and then I'm gonna go to the other side and I'm gonna do my best to kind of keep it close to the same shape. Right? Now I'm being kind of light with my lines so that if I need to, I can always go back and erase away. You'll notice I have quite a few lines here. I don't want them to be super dark, so I can erase away the extra lines that I don't need that don't fit the shape of my face. So again, I started at the top. I made a line for the top of my head, and then I made the line, this sort of curved line for my chin, and then I slowly went back and connected a little bit on each side until I got a face shape that I'm pretty happy with. Notice that this face shape is a little wider at the top than it is at the bottom. Notice it's more oval kind of shaped than it is roundish. Most of us do not have round faces, right? And then I just went back and forth until I got something pretty symmetrical. And any of the lines that are oops lines or don't quite fit the shape, I can just erase away, okay? So that's step one. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna have to figure out the proportion lines of the face. We talked just a little bit about this in our video right before this, that the eyes are in the middle of the head, right? They're not way up here, which we're really tempted to do sometimes. Miss Rayborn sees drawings like that where the eyes are way up here. Eyes are in the middle of the head. Remember, this is from the top of your head where your hair is to the bottom of your chin. So in order to find that correct measurement, we are going to use a ruler. Now, we've used a ruler once this year, if you had one, when you were working on your Madhubani. And Miss Deb gave you a few reminders about how to use a ruler. So let's go over that really quickly before we begin again. Remember that the little tick mark here, this is the beginning of the measurement of your ruler. So this is what you would want to line up to the edge of what you're measuring. For example, if I want to measure my head, right, from top to bottom, because I need to create a line that goes halfway across, I would line this line right here, the tick mark line, up with the line of the top of the head. Then I would go down to here and I would see that my head is measuring 8 inches long. So I need a line that's halfway across, right? Half of the distance from the top to the bottom. So I know that 4 plus 4 is 8, so half of 8 is 4. So I'm going to go down and make myself right here at the longer 4 mark, a little mark on my piece of paper so that I'll know where to draw my line. Now, as you're drawing, you probably are going to want to draw a nice light line, meaning that you're drawing with your pencil lightly. Let me show you what I mean on another piece of paper. So instead of a dashed line, you could be making yourself a lighter color of a line like this one. I'm not doing that because I'm nervous that it will be difficult for you to see in the video. So Miss Rayborn is using a dashed line instead, okay? So now we found the center of our head. Our next job is that we need to find the center up and down, the vertical center. Right now we have a horizontal line, and we've learned that that is for our eyes, right? If you need to, go ahead and press pause until you get this part done. Today will definitely be a day where you might want to pause your video often, do something, and then press play when you've caught up, okay? So the next thing we need is the vertical line, or the line that goes up and down. Now we're going to use our ruler in a very similar way, right? We're going to line up this longer mark to the edge and then measure. So I'm lining up this mark to the edge of my face, and it's telling me that my face is about 5.5. Now that's a little bit tricky, right? It's a little more than 5. Half of 5 is 2.5, but I need to go a little bit past that. So let me show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to 2. Here is 2.5, the mark in between. Because it's a little more than that, I'm gonna go right in between 2.5 and 3. Do you see this mark right here, which is the 3/4 mark? And I'm gonna make myself a mark. Now this might not be exactly perfect, but we can tell that I've tried, right? So again, let me show you how I did that, because this is a little bit tricky. It's not an even number. So I lined up the line for my ruler to the edge of my head, and then I measured across. So do you see how 5.5 is right here? Right about 5.5 is where the end is. We know that half of 5 is what? 2.5. And then I'm gonna go half a tick mark over because it's 5.5, so I'm adding a 1/4. A little bit tricky, okay? So remember to take your time when you're doing this today. Then I'll turn my ruler to the side, and again, Miss Rayborn is using a dashed line like this that's darker because I want you to be able to see the line. If I were you, I would use a nice light line because you're going to erase these lines away later. But I want you to be able to see these lines in my drawing so that it's not confusing on the video, which is why I used a dashed line. Okay, so now go ahead and pause. You can always rewind the video if you need to watch how to make the vertical line that finds the center of your head. Okay, so go ahead and press pause and draw your center line. Press play when you're ready. All right, kiddos, so we have the vertical line dividing our face in half this direction, and we have the horizontal line dividing our face in half, or our head, I should say, pardon me, our head in half this direction. And I've labeled that eyes because we know that that's where the eyes are going to go. In this video, we're going to measure out 2 more things before we're ready to go on to what's next. We need to find out where the nose goes and where the mouth goes. So the nose is half of the distance from the eyes to the bottom of the chin. So half of the distance from here to here. So we learned we're going to use our ruler and we're going to line it up. My ruler doesn't start way here at the end. It has a line mark that shows me right here where it begins. So I'm going to line up that mark to my horizontal line that I drew at the center of the face. And it's telling me that it's 4 inches from the center line to the bottom, which is great news, right? Because we knew that my face was 8 from top to bottom. I made my line at 4 and I did a pretty good job, right? So I know that it's 4 inches from the line for the eyes to the bottom of the chin. Now, half of 4 is 2. I'm gonna make myself a little mark at 2, and then I'll turn my ruler to the side again. I would recommend that you make a light line, but I wanted you to be able to see my line really well. So I'm drawing a dashed line. You could also use a dashed line if you'd like to. And then I want you to label out to the side what goes there. The nose goes there, okay? So go ahead and press pause on the video, rewatch the directions if you feel like you need to. When you're ready for directions for where the mouth goes, I want you to go ahead and press play. All right, kiddos, so we're moving on to our last guideline before we're ready to start drawing. To draw a face in proportion, you can see there's quite a bit of work that happens first. We're doing some drawing and practicing in our sketchbook so that we can build those skills. So we know that from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, the eyes are half of the distance. Then we learned that the nose really depended on that first measurement, right? We had to know where the eyes were to be able to measure from the eyes to the chin. Half of that distance was where the nose goes, okay? Now, the same thing is true of the mouth. Half of the distance from the nose to the bottom of the chin is where the mouth will go. So again, I'm gonna find my ruler, I'm gonna find its beginning mark line. Mine doesn't happen to be right at the edge of the ruler, it's a little farther in. Mine's a little bit tricky. And I'm gonna line it up to the line for the nose. And it's showing me that it's 2 inches from the line for my nose to the bottom of my chin. So I've done a good job again. We knew it was 4 inches from here to here, 2 inches from here to here. And my last line, I'm gonna make it 1 inch because 1 is half of 2, right? So I made my line, I'm turning my ruler to the side, and I'm making a dashed line to show you. Again, you would probably want to draw this line pretty lightly in your sketchbook because we're going to erase it away. I'm making mine nice and dark because I want you to be able to see it, okay? Then I'm going to label it mouth because this is where the mouth is going to go. So let's talk about what we've already done. We drew the shape of our face. It was an oval kind of a shape, right? And it was a little thicker on the top than it was on the bottom, okay? Then we did some measurements using our ruler, and we found the proportion lines of the face by finding half of the distance from the top of the head to the bottom of the head, which is where the eyes are. Then we used that line and we measured half of the distance from the eyes to the bottom of the chin, which is where the nose will go. That's our guideline for the nose. The last measurement we did was half of the distance from the nose line to the bottom of the chin, which is where we drew our guideline for where our mouth will be. So we've done a lot of work in preparing ourselves for our next part of the sketch. If you need to, go ahead and stop in between this video and the next video and try again. This can be really tricky. Today, the only thing we're gonna take care of is these proportion lines, and then on the next video over, I'm gonna show you how to draw the eyes. Then we're gonna take a break for today because this is a lot to talk about and to learn. So when you're ready and you have this taken care of, go ahead and go over to the next video where we'll learn how to draw the eyes in proportion, and then we'll take a break for the rest of the day and we'll pick up with the nose and the mouth and ears and eyebrows and hair and all kinds of stuff next time, okay? Move on to the next video when you're ready. Bye for now. Okay, kiddos, so sorry for the loud alarm. It was almost time for a class. So, we're to the point where we get to start doing some erasing, which is gonna be great. I'm hoping you guys are really gonna start to see this start to look like an eye. Miss Rayborn is gonna kind of zoom myself in so that you can see a little bit better what I'm erasing and talking about. So now that we have drawn the outside part of the eye, here and here, which went on the top and the bottom of the eyeball, then we drew the eyelid, which covers part of the eye. When we look at an eye, we don't see the whole eyeball. There's an eyelid covering part of it, right? So we drew in that shape on the top and on the bottom. Now we get to start doing some erasing. We can erase away the circle part of the eyeball on the top and on the bottom because we can't see that at all, right? It's covered up by your eyelid. The other thing that I like to kind of partially erase is that top outer line, which is the area where your eyelid is. Now, usually you still see a little bit of that line. It's sort of being alluded to on top. The other thing that usually hides part of this line, your eyelid line, is that you've got eyelashes on your eyes. Now, occasionally I see people start to draw their eyelashes like they're big sticking up things like this, right? That is not what eyelashes look like. So let's talk about how to draw eyelashes. Eyelashes will start not from up here, but from here, the lower lid. And I like to draw them kind of out and away. So I learned this technique about drawing grass when I was a kiddo. And I learned to put my pencil down and to just lift it up like this. And I do the same thing, except I give it a little bit of kind of a curve. Now, notice that the eyelashes on top are a little bit longer, right? The eyelashes on the bottom aren't going to be quite as long. They're also kind of slow. They're a little lower. There's a few less of them. That one was too long. And it kind of goes down and away. The other things that you can erase are the lines for the eye socket on the top and also the lines for the eye socket on the bottom. So this part can all go away. So now you have something that looks a lot more like an eye. There's the eyeball. We've got the iris, or the colored part of the eye, and then the pupil. So this is looking a lot more like the eye that we know. Some people even like to draw in the little tear duct in the edge of their eye. Up to you. Okay, so we've worked really hard on our drawings for today, and we're gonna stop there. On our next time together, we will talk about how to draw the nose, how to draw the mouth. We'll talk about ears, we'll talk about hair, how big your neck should be, but we've worked really hard today. So give yourself a pat on the back. You've done 2 of the hardest parts of drawing a face. 1, drawing the lines for the proportion by measuring, and 2, the eyes. The eyes are very, very tricky. So do a little more practicing on your second eye, and then pack up your sketchbook for this week and enjoy a little bit of a rest. You've worked really hard. Bye for now.